Hello. At this point in my YouTube career, I just don't know what to say. I gotta thank y'all for sticking around, but if you are still here, it's probably from my top 5 or top 10 3DS Eshop games. I originally made the top 5 first, and then I made the top 10 because I wasn't satisfied with the quality, but looking back, they're both just utter crap.
So today I'm gonna go ahead and bring you the top 10 eShop games, the ones that I have that I really liked and I would recommend to you.
Ugh, seriously, how did this get 40,000 views? Ugh. I mean, hey, thanks for loving my stuff, but man, are those horrible to go back and watch for me. Now, there's a lot of games on the eShop. There's some real gems and then there's some real stinkers. Now, we're not here today just to clear my conscience of that horrible video, but also because there's been a lot of new games added since I made those. I'm loving the Nintendo Switch, and it's pretty clear that the 3DS is probably on its last legs here. So, hey, let's give it a nice little send-off with its best download-only games. The only rules here are that this time I won't be including any Virtual Console or 3D Classics games because, I mean, Nintendo just hands those out like it's candy at this point. And also, emulation sites. Excuse me. Also, if a game had a physical release, it's out because, I mean, that would just go against the title of the video now, wouldn't it? Anyways, without further ado, let's go for it.
Many of you on this channel are well aware of how much I love Jet Set Radio. I mean, I made a whole video on the 2 main games in the series, and the whole time I just kept praising it. Well, the main reason I love it is because of the satisfying movement. Hopping between rails and doing tricks just feels so fluid and fun. Ollie here is similar. Instead of rollerblades, you use a skateboard, and it goes for a more simplistic approach. Instead of running around an open world spraying graffiti, you automatically move to the right, and the goal is to get to the end without crashing. You build up speed by grinding rails, doing tricks, stuff like that. Now this game gets going really fast, and you're gonna need that speed to make it across pits and over flights of stairs, so there's no taking this game slow. The trick system is really confusing though. I get why that is. It's supposed to be satisfying to pull off complex tricks the same way a fighting game is satisfying to do that Z-move Shoryuken or quarter circle Hadouken. I kinda would have preferred them not to do that though, since in this game you can pretty much do the same trick over and over and then it just gets repetitive. I don't know. Either way, it has some really great feeling of movement and tons of levels, but the kind of weird controls are going to keep it at number 10. Oh boy, how do I explain this game? Honestly, it's really weird and unique. You know, I think I put it better in my old video. Let's take a look at that.
Following the trend of most $2 eShop games, it must be really simple, right? Well, actually, it's not.
Okay, yeah, never mind. I'm gonna have to do this myself. I cannot watch that crap any longer. Basically, Edge is kind of a platformer where you control a cube that rolls around on its edges. Yes, I know, roll credits, edges, Edge, it's the title, haha. Yeah, the word Edge is gonna be mentioned a lot more here, so don't go pulling that joke just yet. You can also do an edge move, where you cling to the edge of another block, and if you can hang there balancing yourself, something will happen with the stage to progress you further into the level. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, that's just because it's weird. It's Edge for you. Your little character is pretty lacking in abilities, so most of the fun of this game comes from the level design itself. There's switches, moving platforms, falling platforms, shrink panels, and all kinds of cleverly built stuff that's designed to trick you. Once you beat all the levels, you can go back and beat your old times and collect all of the hidden secrets to get higher grades. It's kind of weird to explain if you haven't played it yourself, but I promise you, this game is extremely clever and well made, despite its simplistic looks. There's also a ton of levels, so you won't be bored for quite a long time. But then, if I love it so much, why is it all the way back at number 9? Well, put simply, there are better versions of the game you can get. For one thing, the 3D effect simply doesn't work. The pictures on the 3DS don't align themselves correctly, so it just looks like a blur that makes your eyes want to crawl out of their sockets. Even without 3D on, the frame rate can drop pretty badly, and I've become a bit of a snob about that lately. I'd recommend the Steam version more because I think it even has some additional content, but since not everyone's a PC gamer, I feel like Edge at least deserves a mention on this list. Alright, I'm done saying Edge, so now you can go ahead and make that joke about roll credits, you know, where the title comes into play. Alright, I feel like I'm going to take this joke out when I actually make the video, so just go ahead and play the next entry, I guess. I don't even know. In my previous eShop lists, one of the most recommended games in the comment section was the Shantae series. Shantae, I don't know, honestly. I had played the Game Boy Color Shantae, and it was pretty cool, but I really started to like the series with Pirate's Curse. Risky's Revenge is pretty good too, but I just felt like Pirate's Curse upgraded everything. Everything is better, more interesting, or more streamlined in this game, and I love it for that. For those that don't know, it's basically a Metroidvania game spread out amongst several worlds, where you go somewhere new, see a bunch of puzzles you can't solve, end up finding an item, which then lets you go back and solve those puzzles, unlocking even more areas. I really love these kinds of games, and Shantae and her cast of colorful characters helped carry the story along too. Honestly, it's a bit pricey, but you can't go wrong here if you like Metroidvania games, or platformers in general. It's an all-around good experience. Now, that being said, it was kinda one of those games that, once I beat it, I was kinda done. There's a speedrun mode, but other than that, there's not a whole lot left but to just replay this exact same game all over again. There are games where I have no problem with that. I've replayed Beautiful Joe countless times, even though it doesn't really change between playthroughs. I guess Shantae just didn't have quite the same spark as some of my other favorites. Either way, I still consider myself a fan, as it was definitely a fun ride from the beginning to end. I've talked about Kirby on this channel before, a lot, but in case you're just stopping by, I freaking love the little pink ball.
Are you space aliens? It's gotta be impossible, but your name wouldn't happen to be Kirby. Kirby!
In another one of my cringeworthy old videos, I talked about why he was manly, but you know, I think I've come to terms with something else. He's not necessarily manly, he's just really Japanese. I mean, think about it, the cutesy aesthetic is really popular over there, and Kirby's just another smiling face to add to the Land of the Rising Sun's roster of cute characters. And honestly, I have no problem with that. Insult my masculinity all you want, but Kirby is just so dang cute. But I digress. His games are also really fun, and I honestly can't think of a single Kirby game that I actually disliked. Kirby's Blowout Blast is on here because, well, I liked it. It's not as big or expansive as any other Kirby game, but it defines a gameplay aspect, scoring high points and combos in a 3D space, and runs with it. It mixes things up too and has several bosses and secret levels. Not to mention, you get to stare at Kirby's adorable pink face all the while. What's not to love? I love the NES, Squiddo. Trust me, if I did allow virtual console games, this list would be dominated by NES games. But God of Protectors is not an NES game, so I'm allowed to put it. Instead, God of Protectors tries to emulate the look and feel of many 8-bit Nintendo games, going so far as to even include some heavily compressed voice clips.
Welcome, Red Warrior. Red Warrior, your life force is running out. Red Warrior is about to die.
I don't know why, but when voice clips sound like that, I just get feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. As for the gameplay, it's kinda like Dynasty Warriors. Now, I actually really don't like Dynasty Warriors, but this game manages to do it right. You choose one of several different varied characters and take on huge armies of enemies all at once. In the meantime, you must build defenses to protect the princess, spend gold on new abilities and leveling up, and even solve minor puzzles. The combat can be repetitive, sure, but the inclusion of all the characters as well as the equipment you can give them lets you keep things fresh by switching between different builds before every level. In God of Protectors, there's just so much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? Sorry. It was obligatory. You know I had to. I remember when this one hit the shop, I was intrigued. On the one hand, it looked like another generic shovelware title that would just disappear within a week. But at the same time, it looked like it had the potential to be a real gem. Well, luckily it's option number 2. The gem. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's a gem. It's good. It's good. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on here. You take control of one of two generic anime characters and fly through the sky at an incredible high speed. You use either the circle pad or D-pad, or even the face buttons if you so choose, to move your character between essentially 9 tiles. 3 on top, 3 in the middle, and 3 on the bottom, kinda like a tic-tac-toe board. As you fly, you collect coins and gems, smash enemies, and, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. But just like Edge, they mix up the levels quite a bit. The later ones get to be brutally challenging, being a struggle just to survive, let alone get a high score. You gradually get better at the game as you play, memorizing coin locations and being able to react to waves of enemies without getting hit. At the end of a level, there's one of the most strict scoring systems I've ever seen. An S rank is as high as you can go, and you need to play absolutely flawlessly to earn one. Miss a single coin, get hit once, start over if you're going for that S rank, because at that point, it's as good as gone. And I love it for that. There aren't too many levels, but that scoring system and brutal difficulty makes for some really satisfying replayability. I enjoyed this game way more than I thought I would. It's not for everyone though. I personally love simple arcade-style games, so this one was right up my alley. If you don't like games like that though, there's not much for you here. But because it's my list, here it is. I remember trying the demo for this game and not really thinking too highly of it. It was boring. All the enemies and bosses were the same. Eh. But somehow I ended up with it, and I'm honestly glad I did. Instead of mowing down enemies and dodging bullets like in many other shoot-'em-up games, like Chaos Field, which you should go watch that video, the focus is instead put onto the scoring system. In fact, enemies barely pose a threat at all. You have 3 units of health, and they regenerate pretty quickly over time. Instead, the challenge lies in making chains. See, you don't just have a normal shot, but also a bomb sort of thing that explodes, causing the enemies that touch it to explode, causing other enemies that touch them to explode. You can see where this is heading. Chaining together strings of enemies to maximize your score is pretty much all you do in this game, but it is so satisfying. Whenever you beat the final boss, which doesn't actually take too long, the game loops back around and starts over, only more difficult than it was the first time. It's one of those games that's just so addicting. The more you play it, the more you want to keep going. There's also an unlockable extra ship that plays differently from the default one, so you can mix it up if it starts to get a little bland. Also, it has a very, very energetic, driving techno soundtrack that evolves as you progress through each stage, coming to a climax on the last level, and man does it get my blood pumping. It is so insane. I just love it. I've praised this game so much before, and, well, yeah, it kinda deserves it. Cave Story is another Metroidvania game, but unlike the Shantae game I mentioned before, this one has so much more. There's multiple endings, secret unlockable weapons, way more satisfying combat, as well as a story that's actually pretty sad. I've played it through countless amounts of times, it just does not get old. At this point, there's just no reason not to play it. While many, including myself, consider this 3DS version the definitive version, it's been re-released pretty much everywhere, even to the Nintendo Switch more recently. The original PC version is available for free as well, though it won't have as much content as this one will, and it can be a bit of a pain to set up. Nonetheless, you owe it to yourself to play this game, whether it's on 3DS, Switch, PC, or your toaster. It's an all-around good time, and there's something here for any gamer to enjoy. Alright, now this one I got as a download, but I think it actually did get a physical release as well. Though I did read that Europe could only get this as a download. I mean, I'm American, but this one goes out to my European viewers, I guess. Just let me fudge the rule a bit this one time. Code of Princess is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, with RPG elements and a fighting game control scheme. It has 4 characters, each with their own unique movesets and stories, as well as a few challenge missions with even more characters to choose from. You play as Princess Solange, trying to save her kingdom or something, but honestly the story takes a back seat to the combat. And also, just for your information, no, I do not just like this game because of the, well, you know, the character design. As I said, it controls like a fighting game, so if you hate Street Fighter's quarter circles and combos, you'll probably hate this game all the same. I, however, love those kinds of controls, and as a result, loved this game. Seriously, it's the gameplay, alright? I agree, the character design is not the most tasteful, but a good game's a good game. I don't make the rules. As for the characters, each one is unique, with different movesets and different gear to equip them with, as well as a level up system that lets you choose what stats to enhance. The enemies are pretty basic, but when you combine the varied attacks with the combos, lock-on, and berserk mode, there's just so much here to enjoy. I mostly play my Nintendo Switch nowadays, but Code of Princess is one game that keeps me coming back to the 3DS, and I think that says a lot. Whoa, wait, what? This stupid little game? Yeah, honestly, I'm just as surprised as you are. This game is so dumb, and for the amount of content it has, its launch price of $5 was a ripoff. Or so I thought. See, I got it on sale for $1, and honestly, my life has not been the same since. I stopped smoking, I have an awesome high-paying job, and I'm married to the love of my life. How did one little game cause all of that, you might ask? Well, I've got to be honest, if it wasn't clear by my previous entries on the list, I'm a sucker for arcade-style games. It's why I love the classic Sega games, because all the way from the Genesis to the Dreamcast, they just kept churning out all these super original arcade-like games. They weren't very long, but they made up for that with massive amounts of replayability and general fun factor. To me, that's what Whoa Dave is. The gameplay itself is kind of like the original Mario Bros. You know, Super Mario Bros, but without the super. You stick to a single screen, enemies come down from the top, and you have to clear them out by throwing stuff at them without dying. Where things get interesting is the fact that everything is trying to kill you. Everything! These eggs you can throw, that's where the enemies hatch out of. These skulls that plow through enemies like a truck, yeah, they explode a few seconds after spawning. And that's not even mentioning all the different types of enemies. You've got normal enemies, fast enemies, smart enemies, UFOs, flying eyeballs, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's pretty much just one of those games where it starts off simple, teaches you the mechanics, then goes absolutely insane with its new enemy types, difficulty levels, dynamic stages, and a very competitive high score list, at least for me. This is one of those games that's just perfect in the download format. It's not some gigantic file that'll clog up your memory card, and it's not some huge overcomplicated game that takes time to get into. It's a simple, quick play kind of game that's good for blowing off a few extra minutes, and it's also really good for sitting down and sucking out your soul for hours on end. A particular memory I have of this game was during a road trip. It was a bit of a long haul and I didn't have a car charger, so something like Smash for 3DS was out of the question. I needed to conserve the precious commodity of battery power, so low resource games were a necessity. Chain Blaster, which got the number 4 slot, was one of those, but Whoa Dave is the one that sucked up most of my time on that trip. It's just one of those games that's perfect in the format it was released, and I applaud the developers for creating such an incredibly simplistic, yet complex little gem. Oh, and I kinda lied. No, I've never smoked, I'm still in school, and yeah, I'm single. Don't know why I'm saying that here though, cause, well, YouTube Analytics says it's a bit of a sausage party up in here, and unfortunately I don't roll that way.
Again, I can't express how utterly confused I am about how much you guys like that hot mess of a video. That's not to say any of my other videos are of any significant quality, it's just that I think those are the worst. But either way, it isn't the video that we're talking about here, we're talking about the games. There's a lot of good games on the eShop, and there were a lot I had to sadly leave off. When it came to downloads, the 3DS had a really strong library, and right now the Switch is looking to have a pretty good lineup too. In fact, why don't you send a comment with what your favorite 3DS or Switch eShop game is? Alright, well until I hear from you in the comment section below, I must bid you adieu. So, have a good life or something. I don't know.